I was
Yes,
thinking that
I-
during
We
the
have
year. He's
discussed
just
that many times.
the pressure of having to satisfy like a top wide receiver, a top talent like that. Nothing against OBJ. He's great. He's an amazing talent, like practically legendary, like his entrance into the league. But this team just plays better without him. Baker Mayfield not having to worry about feeding his star receivers, like being able to just kind of, I feel like, focus on moving the offense as opposed to targeting one guy or anything like that. I think it's just they work better without him.
Out of all the diva wide receivers, Michael Thomas is the last one standing right now and still playing. I mean, you don't have OBJ's gone, Juju's gone, and DK's gone. So Odell now you look at this spot, you could trade him. I mean, now's the time that you get rid of him, because if you're the Cleveland Browns,
I'll take him, Patriots. And
you're going to get, and you know what? Cleveland Browns, you're probably going to lose to Kansas City. No one's going to pick you. And I'm rooting for the Browns. I hope there's an upset.
As everyone is, besides Chiefs Kingdom.
Never say never. But it's just now you could be the Browns, be like, well, we're not going to have that first-round pick that we usually do. It's actually going to be later. But we have a trade piece in Odell, and we did this without Odell. Jarvis Landry and Baker are on the same page. That team's on the same page. It's wholesome to see Myles Garrett and Baker gapping each other up and just jumping into each other. That's good. The team is together, and maybe the team itself behind closed doors is saying, we don't need Odell. We don't need any of that distraction going forward. We can take him and trade him for maybe a first round, second round, whatever it ends up being, and get rid of him. And comes to the Patriots, I don't know. I mean, you don't know what he's like after that injury, but he's valuable to another team out there, so it'll be interesting.
I think the big thing with them is that they finally found their identity, and that's on the ground. I mean, when you have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I still think Kareem Hunt is, if you're talking about just pure talent, a top 10 running back in the league. On any other team, he's probably starting. And when you have both of them, I mean, you have to live on the ground, and they finally found that that's where they go.
Why did I not think of this until now? Kareem Hunt is going against Kansas City. This is just
revenge game.
This is a storyline.
That's a big storyline.
Because you just said he completely is a top 10 running back, and he was completely dumped off by Kansas City, rightfully so, because of what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, you in Cleveland Cleveland gets him. They get the crappy scraps, all right, whatever, and it worked out, and it absolutely worked out for Cleveland. So, wow, what a story would it be if Kareem Hunt runs over them for 150 yards and scores 2 touchdowns? That's what I would like to see. That's wholesome, full circle, coming in full circle right there.
That season where he got obviously like you said, rightfully so, he got cut from the team, but he was in the conversation for best running back in the league. He was on pace for 1,000. He was having a great year.
What's tough is Kansas City didn't need him because they won the Super Bowl anyways. So
you can plug me into that backfield and they'd still win.
They didn't need that, but when you're a team like Kansas City that's starting out, all eyes are on you, the attention's on you because of Pat Mahomes, and all of a sudden it's we can't have bad PR. We can't just bury this. We can't just do this like any other team would. And Cleveland ended up picking the scraps up, and it ended up working out for the 1-2 punch. So just now it's kind of actually crazy to think he's going back to Kansas City in a playoff game. And guess what? He came into New England and ran all over them and shit on their parade. Wouldn't it feel great for Kareem Hunt to end up doing that? And doing that all over Kansas City.
Well, and I think the big thing for a couple things, the Browns, their game plan's got to be keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands. So, their ground game that they found is certainly going to help them. But 2, they've shown that they can compete in shootouts. We saw the Monday night game against the Ravens where pretty much every Patriots fan was watching like it was a Patriots game. They didn't win the game, but, they were going touchdown for touchdown with Lamar Jackson. So, obviously the Chiefs offense is a bit better than the Ravens, I would say, but they can put up 40 plus in a game. We've seen it multiple times, and they can go, hit for hit. How long they can do it for with the Mahomes offense, who knows? But I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility for the Browns to maybe squeak an upset out, but at least keep the game close till the end.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas has it -10, so I would say take +10. I think Browns at least can keep it in that 10-point, 9-point, 8-point game. It will be I think it might be a 1 possession at the end of it, as all said and done.
That's what I projected.
And again, another one of those games, games where if you're Baker Mayfield and Cleveland Browns, congratulations, you made it this far. No one's expecting you to win, but if you can show up and prove it, hey, we can hang with the top team in the AFC. that could also lure some free agents or some picks or whatever it might be, or some trades for Cleveland to say, hey, Cleveland's back on the rise right now. You want to play with this young core. They're fun to play with. They actually have something going on.
Yep.
And hey, look, Babs, you said before about the Rams, oh, they lose to Green Bay this week. They could keep their heads held high. We hung around with this team. I think it's pretty much symmetrical looking at it between them and the Browns.
Yep.
Because, hey, you got this young core. I mean, the Chiefs are probably the best team in the league right now, arguably. I mean, I think it's arguable. Some people might not. But at the same time, it's like, hey, they hung around in there with them. So just imagine what we can do in the future. So,
right, they've already gone above and beyond what people expected of them this year, especially beating the Steelers, even though the Steelers are like frauds, whatever. The Browns, it's only uphill from here. Like doing it without your head coach too.
And the fact that, yeah, no, just like that last week, and it's your first road playoff victory since the 60s, and it's your first actual playoff win in 20-something, 25, 26 years. And guess what? They're still hungry because next year they're going to want to win the division. And that division's as tough as it can ever be right now between Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh and the Ravens and the Browns now. And that and plus, don't count out Joe Burrow and Cincinnati, whatever they can figure that out next year. They'll be up there in there too. So at least Baker and company have something to play for next year, and that's to win a division title and bring that to Cleveland. That's another step in the right direction at least.
Yeah. And just look at everything that Cleveland's went through this year. The heartbreaking loss against Baltimore. And hell, they beat Pittsburgh because they got beat up by them pretty badly earlier in the year. And then, as I was saying, I think last week, because I picked Pittsburgh going into this game, as we all did. This was Pittsburgh's Cleveland's. This is the best Cleveland Browns team in about 30 years since their last playoff run, or whenever their last playoff win, and they barely squeaked one out against the Pittsburgh backups, a Mason Rudolph-led Steelers team. They barely squeaked one out against them. It's like, oh, Ben Roethlisberger is going to come back. They're going to have their entire defense healthy again. There's no way they're going to rout them. And they did the complete opposite. Cleveland routed Pittsburgh. So that's got to be something that's going to be hanging over their heads. It's like, hey, we got Pittsburgh's number right now. And you saw Chase Claypool's comments on TikTok or wherever the hell he was talking.
It's just a loser.
Yeah.
I don't even want to get into that because
the Browns and the Browns gonna get clapped next week.
Yeah.
Just leaving it up there. And I mean, I'll say for week 17, it's like you're the Browns and you're playing against backups. Doesn't mean you're going 100% against those backups. You know you're against backups and you're kind of easing off because you know you got to play again next week. So although it's a must-win situation because they had to win to get in the playoffs anyways, you're not going 100%. Pedal to the metal like you are in the playoffs where everything's on the line, 100%. These guys aren't worried, especially when you're younger. You're not worrying about your body. You're not worrying about all that other shit. Like, that's the thing about going back to the Bucs game real quick is just that Brady will go down quick. That's just who he is because of his age now. But when they were getting, I lost the power here. When they were going to Brady and he was getting hit and he would go down quick. Like, that's Big Ben. Big Ben, you start pressuring him, he just lets it go because he wants to extend his health. Baker Mayfield does not care about his health right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to go back on Claypool, whatever the hell he was talking about. You have Claypool's comments and you have Juju's comments after the game. You just beat the hell out of them. It's like, you're Cleveland. It's like, we got them. We're in their freaking heads right now. Like, Pittsburgh's going to have to get over a big mental block this offseason. And in opposite of that, in contrast to that, Cleveland is getting over that playoff drought, that playoff hump or whatever, and they're finally a contender. So
hey,
big role reversal
for you guys. Is Big Ben staying or not next year? $41 million cap hit next year.
Oh my God.
I don't think he stays. I mean, here's the thing. I don't think he plays for another team. It's either he retires or he comes back. I don't think. But he said earlier on in the season that he's coming back. But I can't see Pittsburgh being like.
He was crying after that game, and it seemed like he knows that his time's up.
He's always been very week to week. Like, he'll be like, I'm going to retire like 1 week during the regular season. Then he'll go throw for 500 yards, and he'll be like, all right, we're back.
But that's the interesting thing when we talk about quarterbacks available in the market, because now it's like Pittsburgh's like, we got to know your decision by March. Like, we need to know if you're retiring or not. And if he retires, that's fine. Like, his number's going to get retired. They'll make a statue for him. They'll do all the fun stuff in there in Pittsburgh. But they can be like, listen, like, we want that cap space. Like, this is helping out our team. Like, we've done this too many times. Because they can end up they might need somebody there too. So that's another team that opens up the whole, we need a quarterback now, because Mason Rudolph ain't going to be their guy going forward.
Yeah, if I'm the Steelers, I'm looking to move on because, as much as Big Ben, he demands that respect. He's been your guy for the better half of the last 20 years. He deserves to have that role, I guess, if he wants it. But if I'm the Steelers, I'm looking to move on because your defense is very young. You have a lot of good young offensive pieces, and Big Ben's only going to get worse. So you want a guy, maybe even you draft a guy late first round, like we said, Trey Lance. You got some other guys available, Zach Wilson. If they go down that far, you have a lot of options for a good young quarterback to grow with your team. So Pittsburgh definitely wants a new young quarterback. Whether or not they're going to get one rests on Big Ben's shoulders, really.
Big Ben will definitely play somewhere else too, because if the money's right, and it will be, and now we're in the age it doesn't matter. You don't stick with one team anymore. You don't do any of that. No one's going to remember Big Ben's final 2 years on the Denver Broncos, or if he goes down, or he goes to Dallas.
Chicago.
Big Ben on Dallas. Imagine that. Big Ben could be looking at it and saying, all right, I'll let go of this team. I don't think they can. I don't know what the cap is. I just saw that it said $41 million.
Yeah.
That was the cap hit. I don't know how much dead cap that would be if he gets cut. I don't know if anyone even want to trade for him if that's what the cap hit is. So that's a tough decision to make right now. And I think it's it. I think it's over for Big Ben.
Yeah. I saw something that said, and it's true, I didn't really think about this, but I agree with it. He's the worst just in terms of pure talent. He's the worst quarterback in his division now. I would take every single one of Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. I would take all of them over Ben Roethlisberger at this point. And it's not even about age or anything. It's just, who would I want to win a game? He just looks a shell of himself. Yeah. It finally caught up to him.
And he knows it. And I think he knows it. And I think what hurts the most is that you were 11-0 and it was more team wins. They were winning as a team and sneaking out. And then they just kind of went on that downward spiral at the end. And I think, Big Ben, you don't have a spine. You should have been controlling that locker room, especially with Juju making you guys look stupid. I can understand Big Ben being like, I don't give a shit about that. It's not my problem. But it ended up being a problem. It ended up being a distraction for the team, and just where fans want to root against you. People right now should be Steelers fans because they know it's your final years. They should be rooting for you just because it's oh, well, Big Ben deserves at least one more shot. He deserves one more shot. But now you said that he's the worst quarterback in his division. Not even that. You have Pat Mahomes over there. You have a Derek Carr that's better than Big Ben. You have other quarterbacks all around that are better than him. It's just even Tua. Tua's on his way up. Josh Allen, completely.
He's not even top 8 or top 10.
Middle. He's just middle,
in the
middle of the
AFC,
road in the AFC. So he knows that it's over. And does he want to come back and go into Pittsburgh next year and they go 5-11 or 5-12 because the week 7 they're an extra game now? But does he want to be a 5-win, 6-win team? Because that's possible as well too. And I don't think he wants to go through any of that shit. So
and also I think the bigger story is the Steelers locker room over the years. You've got, how many clowns have you had come from that locker room? You've got Antonio Brown, who, we don't know what really went on with him, but he got expelled from that team and never really, came back. And obviously he's playing, but that entire, saga that happened. You had Le'Veon Bell come out and trash on Big Ben and the Steelers. You've got Juju's dancing on logos. You got Chase Claypool who's making snide comments after. Tomlin has no control over who was in that locker room, and it shows because it wasn't just a select few. It's now you're drafting guys that are kind of getting integrated into this, this locker room that you've had for years. Yeah, the culture, and it seems like it's a recipe for disaster because they haven't won.
So before the Patriots played the Steelers the year before an opening night, right, and they lost 33-3 or whatever, 33. I was talking to some Pittsburgh fans that were at Gillette, and I could talk to anybody, and I just asked simple questions with no hate. And I said, "What do you think about Mike Tomlin? Seriously, you guys haven't really won anything." And a lot of them want Tomlin out of there, but they know the Rooneys love Tomlin. They're gonna stay. They like him, and I feel like Tomlin just keeps proving himself enough to stay because they're over 500. They make the playoffs. That's how it goes, and it's just one of those situations where Mike Tomlin inherited Bill Cowher's team and ended up winning a Super Bowl because of it. That's how it went. And then I just feel like I give Tomlin credit because this organization keeps pumping out wide receivers, and I mean they get certain talented players. He has an eye for talent, but it's just I think the no control of the locker room. Like it just there's no control whatsoever. And I feel like Cowher had control when you had like the Hines Ward and Palomalu like type of players there. Like you missed that. You missed those veteran guys. There's nobody really there that's like a veteran of the Pittsburgh Steelers that can keep that team and that squad together.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? I'm looking at it right now. Since 1969, the Steelers have had 3 head coaches. So that's what over 50 years they've had 3. So I feel like they don't really fire coaches. They retire, then they'll go find a new guy. Like you said with the Rooneys, it's a very it's a cultural thing where they have their one coach. He doesn't have to stick around, and they give him that respect, and they let him just kind of do his thing.
Yeah, I mean they're not going through really shitty years right now. They're not like under 500. If they went under 500 next year, Tom would still probably stay. They'd still probably want to keep him around. I mean, I think right now is the perfect time though to look at Mike Tomlin and give him at least the benefit of the doubt, saying let's go into this draft and let's get our quarterback of the future, or like let's start working on that. I feel like they really haven't worked on that yet. And I know they went for Mason Rudolph. What was he drafted? Like what round?
I think he was like. I want to say he was like 2nd or 3rd, but I really have no idea.
Right?
I remember he was kind of like a decent prospect.
Remember pissed him off, and he was like, "Oh, they got my replacement here," and like he had that poor attitude for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I get it, like it's like, but that's Tomlin trying to look forward to his future. Mason Rudolph isn't going to be the guy, like not at all. Like, I don't think he is. No. But it's just they got to start looking at their future. Like you got to start looking, Tomlin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
They should tank next year. They should 100% tank. They should. They should 100% tank.
With that
young quarterback this offseason.
But they're good. They're gonna lose. They're losing Juju for sure. They're not gonna have the wide receiver depth if they lose Big Ben. I mean, why? The defense can only get you so far. I mean, at that point, I agree. I would just try to get a top 5, top 6 pick, and maybe I don't know who's in the class next year for QBs, but maybe you walk into a Fields or someone like that who you can at least try to build your next dynasty around and